Hi everyone, my name is Suneha. Along with my group members Jasmeet Kaur, Harmandeep Kaur, Rimpaljeet Kaur, and Gagandeep Singh, we are going to represent our presentation on Tilden rental a car Co.v Clendennig 1978. Now I'm going to talk about the background of this case. Where Tyndall Rental a Car is a well-known rental business where they signed a contract with the Callaghan. The business quicker the rental process by employing standard form contract and highlighting their faster services, whereas Clendennig is a respondent use the usual form of contract that was offered and when he rented a car from Tyndon. The disagreement resulted from the fact that his clarification of agreement was very different from the company's. Now I will talk about the case fact. The key topic in contract law is the case of Tyndall Rental Car Co. West Clendenning, which focus on the regular form of contract and varieties of agreement and conditions. But in 1978, the decision, which stayed as one of the foundational decisions in Canadian contract law, has important difficulties for both the contractual fairness and consumer protection. This case highlights the complex relationship between the need of the contractual clarity and business luxury. We may learn how court attack the compression between these conflict objectives, raising the unbiased result while preserving the constructual clarity by looking at the factual metrics and legal principle controlling this case. Thank you. Next part will be discussed by one of my group member. Thank
Let's talk about identifying issues. Standard form contracts. Adopting standard contract raised concern about informed consent and the fairness of unilaterally informed stipulations. Reasonable expectation. The central issue in the argument was whether the contract's provision met the reasonable expectation of average customer familiar with the industrial standards. Duty of disclosure. The case highlighted the importance of firms disclosing important conditions to customer during the agreement process. The next point is legal holding and rule application. Judicial decision. The court determined that the secret stipulations which Clendenning was said to accepted were not binding due to lack of reasonable notice and clear explanation at the time of contract signing. Principle of fairness. The contract the court stressed the need for fairness in contract construction, especially when standard form contracts are utilized. Businesses must provide explicit terms to customer. Impact on contract law. The ruling of reaffirmed the principle that confusing or hiding elements, particularly in adhesion contracts, must be conveyed plainly and unambiguously to informants made. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Jasmeet Kaur and I am the team member of this group. I would talk about analyze the rationale. The first one is principles of law. The court stressed foundational contract law concepts, including the necessity of mutual agreement between the parties and the duty of parties to provide sufficient information for forming valid contracts. This ensures fairness and informal consent in contractual relationship. The second one is analyzing previous cases. The decision was informed earlier legal cases that deal with issues surrounded by undisclosed or ambiguous terms in standard form contracts. The court cited past ruling that deal with comparable concerns about unstated provisions. The last one is protection of consumers. Central to the court reasoning was the protection of consumer through safeguarding them from the unclear or potentially unfair contractual terms, ensuring transparency and accountability in contractual dealings to build trust and equity in commercial interactions. The second part is contractual fairness in focus. The first one is fair contracting. The court emphasized that equitable contracting is essential for maintaining legitimacy in contracts. This requires that consumers to be provided a reasonable opportunity to review, comprehend, and agree to them. The second one is knowledgeable consent. The court highlighted informed consent as a cornerstone of valid contracts, a crucial idea which requires the consumer to be informed all relevant terms, which ensures that they fully understand what they are agreeing to, foster fairness and minimize disputes over misunderstanding terms. The last but not the least is law enforcement. The judgment underscored the judiciary's role in upholding fairness and transparency in contractual parties. Courts act as arbiters to prevent and address any instance of unjust or non-transparent agreements. Thank you. The next one will be covered by my next partner.
Hi there, my name is Rimpaljit Kaur and now I'll be presenting my part of the presentation. So this is the slide number 7 and it talks about effects on contract law in Canada or simply impact on Canadian contract law. It has 3 points. Let's talk about the first point, which is about legal history. Tilden rent a car Co.v Clendennig has set a substantial precedent, particularly in matters concerning consumer rights and transparency in contract law within Canada. The next point, it is about improved rules or enhanced regulations. The ruling influenced regulatory measures, prompting businesses to adopt more comprehensive and transparent contractual practices to meet legal standards. The last and the third point is legal advice or judicial guidance. This case has provided a framework for judiciary bodies to assess and enforce contractual obligations, prioritizing fairness and clarity over rigid adherence to ambiguous terms. Let's move on to the next slide. This is about consumer protection and rights. It has 3 rights. Let's say I can see. Let's talk about the first one. So the first right says right to information. It means consumers are entitled to full disclosure of contract terms, empowering informed decision making and protecting against unenforceable or hidden clauses. The next one is protection from exploitation. The case underscores protections against exploitation, where standards from firms attempt to bind consumers to unfair or unexpected terms without proper notice. The third and the last one is fair practice enforcement. This right emphasizes the role of judicial systems in enforcing fair practices, ensuring that all parties adhere to the equitable expectations within contractual agreements. This is all about my part of the presentation. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Harmandeep Kaur and I'm going to talk about challenges in contractual enforcement. The first issue is ambiguity in terms. Lack of clarity is common in contracts, making interpretation and enforcement more difficult. The second one is power imbalance. There is a big power disparity between businesses and customers, which frequently results in unfair business practices. The third one is technical advancements. This transition to digital contracts present difficulties in ensuring customers' understanding and transparency. Here is conclusion and reflections. A significant advancement in contract law, the decision in Tilden rent a car Co.v Clendennig 1978 emphasized the necessity of fairness and candor in consumer contracts. It acts as a reminder of core system duty to uphold fair business practices, granting that customers are properly informed and protected against unfair terms. The basic principle of this ruling, which supports openness, equality, informed consent, still influence contemporary contract law. The case implication for modern contractual engagements and the ongoing needs for reform that better match company practices with customers' rights must be taken into account as the academics and legal professionals think back on it.
These are some references that we use in our presentation. Thank you so much for listening us so far.